G'day, wherever you are, welcome to the next big thing. It is my privilege to introduce our guest for today. I believe he could be in this Grammy season of the next podcast. He could be the very first doctor. He is the faculty coordinator of music studies at the Institute of Hawaiian Music. He also serves on the board of governors at the Hawaii Academy of Recording Arts. And he's a prolific composer, over 150 compositions to his credit, and he is the custodian of the Hawaiian music cultural legacy. So without further ado, please welcome Dr. Keola Donaghy. Keola, how are you doing?
Aloha, mahalo for having me on and for that overzealous perhaps introduction.
Yeah.
You make me sound bigger than I am.
That's modesty there. And aloha back to you. I've been wanting to say that. And so that's great. Nice to see you. Is that a digital image or are you actually out?
No, I was going to say kia ora. I actually lived in Aotearoa for 6 months. I did my Ph.D. at the University of Otago.
No way.
So that's the bell tower at the school.
Oh my God. Indeed. I thought, yeah, oh my God. It had a strange sense of familiarity. Not that I've been to Otago, but
yes.
Very interesting. So that's our common New Zealand connection.
Mm-hmm.
You're indeed. Okay, that's fantastic. Yes, I spent 8 years in Auckland. And
very nice.
Yeah, and then I moved to Melbourne. Got married, came here to do my study an MBA from the Melbourne Business School, and which also brought me to the US. I did an exchange term at the University of Southern California at Marshall School.
Oh, wonderful!
And it was a great experience.
Yeah. I didn't spend much time in Auckland. Our entire 6 months or so was in Dunedin, and we really only slept overnight in, I think it was Manukau. But beautiful place. Hoping to make it back there.
It is. No, you should. And so my family's still there. My wife's mother's still there. My sister-in-law's still there. So we obviously have a New Zealand connection. I have both passports, New Zealand and Australian. And
very nice.
And depending on the audience, I play each card. So
yeah, I know how that goes.
Yes. So it's good. And the rivalry is very friendly. It's not as intense as some other parts of the world, but it's good. Okay, so welcome to the next big thing. And as you know, we have a tradition on this show, which I alluded to earlier. And the guest comes on and shares two things about themselves, two statements. And one of them is fact, one of them is fiction. You reel them out in any order, and then I have to guess and separate fact from fiction.
Okay, well, I'll make the two somewhat related. So I do have a thing for languages. And so the first one I'll say is Japanese. We have a lot of Japanese visitors in Hawaii.
Okay.
And the other is that, while not fluent, I have studied Irish Gaelic. So one of those two is true and the other is not.
So you speak Japanese with, I'm guessing, a good degree of fluency. That's your statement one. And then you're saying, okay, you're putting in a little disclaimer saying maybe not super fluent, but you can hold a conversation in Irish Gaelic. Is that correct? Have I got it right?
Yes. So which one is true and which is false?
Okay. You might have given me a clue there, because you live in Hawaii and there are a lot of tourists who converse in Japanese. I think you're actually extremely conversant in Japanese. That's a fact. And the Irish Gaelic. Oh, you got through a curveball. You threw a googly.
I threw you a curveball or a knuckleball.
Oh my God.
Actually, I as part of my master's program at Hilo, I spent a month in Ireland to study how the Irish were working to perpetuate their language. And that month I was in a school an Irish language school for adults called Scale.
That is so interesting.
I don't speak Japanese at all. I do speak Maori. So you
speak Maori.
Not great, but it's very closely related to Hawaiian, and I am fluent in Hawaiian. Composed.
You really got me there. You know what you've done, Keola? You wouldn't know this. This is the first time I've got it wrong in about 8 or 9 podcasts. Yeah, I was on a roll and you broke it.
I broke your string. So sorry about that.
That's okay. That's completely okay. It was a good run. It was good while it lasted.
Yeah.
So that's great.
Yeah.
Great to hear. So, so the love for languages is a fact. What else do you speak? So there's Hawaiian, there's English, there's Maori, there's Irish Gaelic, if you can. Yeah, and then what else?
I started studying Korean about a year and a half ago because I was planning to attend a school that trained academics in Korean music. Didn't quite make it, missed the cut, and my wife and I decided to go anyway. So we spent about 2.5 weeks there, and I got a chance to try to practice what I had learned. But I've decided I'm trying to get back to Aotearoa, so I jumped back on my Maori bandwagon and watch, the Maori news as best I can, and try to get my skill level up a little bit higher. But interestingly, Maori and Hawaiian are actually very closely linguistically. My daughter was an immersion student, so she speaks Hawaiian. We started using Hawaiian with her when she was a baby. So when we went to New Zealand, she was able to hold conversations with her Maori language teacher while they were each speaking their own language, and pretty much were able to make out what each other was saying.
That's so cool. So travel plans to New Zealand, you know what to do. If you are coming this side, you have to let me know. And
I will do for certainly.
Yeah. And maybe you come here, whatever. I don't know. We'll try it.
If I do get it, it'll be for like 5 months. So and I'll have some funding to be able to do some traveling. It's to both research and teach at Victoria University in Wellington. Fellowship I applied for.
Fantastic. Yeah, Wellington's great. Yeah. Very windy. But it's a good place. Yeah,
and the ground shakes a lot.
The what? Sorry?
The ground shakes a lot.
The ground shakes a lot. Oh my God, yes. Yep, it does. It certainly does. And interestingly, though, while we were in Auckland, we didn't experience an earthquake. And of all places, we experienced it in Melbourne, which is not really known for its building shook. And I was like, and even during my stint in California, surprisingly, I missed it. Because, there was an earthquake near home. I lived with my uncle. But I was in USC on campus. I didn't feel a thing. And then I came home and I'm like, how did that statue break? They were like, what?
Well, my wife and I lived on Hawaii Island for 8 years, probably 20 miles from the active volcano there. And interestingly, so 5 years ago, we're getting ready for my son's wedding in this little town called Puna, which is downstream of the volcano, again by 20 miles. Wow. The night before their wedding, there was this huge earthquake, and an active cinder cone popped up in their area about a mile away from my daughter-in-law's mother's house. So we're freaking out. We went to get water, and the floor of the mall was moving sideways like this, knocking everybody over. So I'm at the cashier with beer and water bottles and all this, and I tell the cashier, "You're going to cash me out before you run out that door." So I gave her the cash, and we bolted out of the store. But it was crazy. We ended up losing. We had a community center set up for their reception. They're expecting like 600 people, and we had to set up tents around the church overnight to accommodate the party. But yeah, the cinder cone, it was about 300 feet tall, and spewing lava was only about 1.5 miles away from where they got married.
Wow. This is like right out of a doomsday movie. It's like it's the last day.
But it went off wonderfully, and the activity stopped and things have been somewhat normal. But the date May 4th will always be etched in our memory.
Memorable wedding. Memorable wedding.
That day comes along, and I get nervous.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
you painted a picture for me there. Well, thank you for that. All right, let's talk about music, right? So I'm guessing, and please correct me if I'm wrong. So you have this academic side,
yes.
Doctor, Ph.D. You studied music academically, research and all of that stuff. And then there's obviously the performance, the recording side.
Right.
How do you sort of manage both? Does one get more attention than the other?
Well, there's actually more to it than that. So I had moved to Hilo nearly 30 years ago, actually to study Hawaiian language. So I did my bachelor's and my master's were both in Hawaiian. And I was just doing music on the side and, was really interested in learning how to compose in Hawaiian language, which is, it's the same language, but it's, poetic Hawaiian is very different from spoken Hawaiian as it is for many languages.
Right.
But I was actually the alpha geek of Hawaiian language over there. So I had, back in the early 90s, there was really not an easy way to represent Hawaiian on the computer. We used diacritic marks that weren't common. So I had hacked up a bunch of fonts, and eventually I actually worked with Google, with Apple, and with Microsoft to get them to build in support for our language into their computer operating systems. So if you buy any Macintosh, iPhone, Microsoft Windows computer now, they have a Hawaiian keyboard built into them. So I was pretty much responsible for that. And at the same time, trying to develop my skills as a composer. So, for maybe 15 years, all I really did was I play guitar, ukulele, bass, a little keyboards. I'm not great at any of them, but I really focused on the composing point of it, doing the poetry. And I found a great collaborator. His name's Kenneth Makuakane, he's a legend in the industry. He's won our Academy's Lifetime Achievement Awards.
Wow.
He's won our Nahoku Hano Awards, about 30 of them. So we've been working together for close to 20 years now, with me predominantly doing the lyrics in Hawaiian and him doing the music. And we were working fine like that for a while. And in the back of my mind, I always wanted to do Hawaiian language music in a much more contemporary style, rather than just acoustic guitar and acoustic bass and ukulele. I wanted to hear drums and electric bass and keyboards and electric guitars. And we kept on talking about doing that. And I had sent him demos of the things of mine that I wrote that he did with added drum loops and keyboard parts. And like, dude, we got to do an album like this. And, things always came up. So he's also the kahua priest at Kauaiahao Church, which is like the center of Christianity in Hawaii. It's the oldest church in Hawaii. Actually, it's 200 years old. It just had its anniversary, and he's only the 12th kahua that they've had in 200 years. So it's a huge responsibility. It's very prestigious, and we met this other fellow from Nashville 10 years ago named Jeff Dayton. He was Glenn Campbell's music director for 15 years, toured with Kenny Chesney and a bunch of other folks. And we always had this loose affiliation. And finally, I had one other friend here on Maui that I've known for 45 years. His name's Tarvin Makia. Not well known, but he's been able to support himself and his family doing nothing but music for 45 years.
That's a big achievement.
So it really is. And but he's never been in the spotlight. He's usually the side guy. He toured with this big Hawaiian group called Hapa for many years. They've toured internationally and done well. But I was always like, for him and Jeff in particular, it's like these guys have worked their butt off for most of their lives, and they've never had a chance to shine. So I talked to Ken. I said, why don't we put something together with these guys? He and I don't need them. I have 6 awards. Ken has 30.
Nice.
And said, but let's do it for these guys, for our friends. So I reached out to them all, and they were like, hey, we're down. Let's try something. So I had 4 songs demoed with drums and keys and all this, and sent them off to Jeff, and he sends me back like 6 acoustic guitar parts, 3 electric guitar parts, B3 organ, and he was just totally into it. I'm like, wow, what am I going to do? There's no space, but he's an incredible, much better than I am. So we rolled with that, and same thing with Kenneth and Tarvin. So we have Jeff in Nashville, Tarvin and I here. Kenneth
Yeah.
lives on Oahu.
Yeah.
And then we brought Tarvin's daughter in. Her name is Mapuana Makia. I don't know if you've ever seen Disney Plus has a show called Doogie Kamealoha MD.
No.
It's a reboot of the old Doogie Howser
Oh.
TV show from what.
Oh, I remember
about,
Doogie Howser very much. It's part
yeah,
of my teenage years.
Yeah. So it's about a young Hawaiian girl, you know, late teens, who has already gone through medical school as this brain.
Yeah.
But so Tarvin's daughter Mapu, my niece, has a regular role on that show.
Oh.
But she's an actress. She's been in a bunch of TV shows, and she does narration for audiobooks.
Interesting.
And we were working on this one song over Christmas last year, and she just happened to be visiting Tarvin from Vancouver over the Christmas holidays as we were wrapping things up. So I said, "Hey, Mapu, how about if you do a harmony vocal with your dad on this particular song?" And she's like, "Oh, sure." So she did it one take, and I was like, "Wow. Would you like to join our group?" Which she agreed to. She only did that one track, but you know, we're really planning to have her in fact, I can show you a picture if you like. Sure. If I can share a screen, or is this all audio? Is this all audio?
No, this is video as well. This is video as well. So I'm not sure that'll
work. Let me give it a try. I have the share button, so let me see.
This will be a new one. Will it work? Because I've set this up. I don't know if how will this work? I haven't tried this, to be honest.
Let's see if it works. You know,
or send it through, and I'll send it through, and I'll put it in the edit.
Sure.
Send it through the
I'll go ahead and I'll do that.
I can do that. I could put it in.
But gorgeous lady, really talented, and we were lucky to have him. So so really the recording came over the course of about a month late last year, and at that point we had never actually played together.
Oh. Okay.
we were flying tracks back and forth over the internet. One of the songs I have, the fellow that's doing the drums is named Jim Kelly, and he's the drummer for the country group Rascal Flatts.
Yeah.
And then we have a percussionist in LA, you know, who does hand drums, that added a couple other parts. So there was really like
these are all session musicians, or is it just a big group coming together?
Well, the folks in our group are mostly working musicians. They're not, you know, other than me being mostly an academic, but Tarvin, Kenneth has his gig with the church, but he also plays, and he puts out a couple CDs of his own music every year. Jeff, since, you know, Glenn Campbell passed, has done a lot of, you know, solo acts, and he actually tours with the band. You know, it's a tribute to Glenn Campbell, so he does a lot of Glenn songs and tells the story. But so, you know, some of this happened during the pandemic. So with Jim, I just found out that, you know, I guess he was out of work like everybody else, and he was offering his services to whoever wanted. And I'm like, well, let's give him a try. And he sent back a track. I was like, whoa, we need to work with this guy. But the actual first gig we actually had together was about 5 months later. It was a fundraiser on the island of Oahu, for a charter school. So that was the first time we actually, four of us played together. Then the next day we played a gig at the Blue Note in Honolulu.
Nice.
They have one in one of the hotels. Then we didn't actually play together again until our Nahuku Hano Awards in July.
Right. And what was that held?
Unfortunately, it was held in Honolulu at a place called the Hawaii Theater, you know, very historic theater in town there.
I'm yet to visit that part of the world. I'm yet to do that, but I will sometime.
You should. It's a wonderful experience. You know, there's such a variety of music being played everywhere. You know, obviously I'm partial to Hawaiian music, but you know, reggae music is huge here. It's you know, it's everywhere. We have our own categories, a couple categories where reggae styled artists do. Our own awards, it's not just Hawaiian music. So we also have heavy metal category. We have rock, alternative, R&B, hip hop.
Sure.
We don't have a country one, interestingly enough. Hawaii is really hot for country. I mean, it's huge, but there aren't a lot of acts that actually record country music, which is kind of interesting.
Right. Okay. Wow. What a wonderful journey. Now, so you've been with the Academy how long? 20 years, did you say? 20 years with as a voting member of the Recording Academy?
Yes, there was a couple of years where I let it expire. I actually had a nightmare this year, so I didn't get any kind of notification. Well, my wife and I had been in Korea for all that time, and I came back and okay, I need to log in, and it said I expired. I was like, wait a minute, I didn't get any kind of notification, and contacted them. Oh, well, your application needs to be reviewed because it's been 5 years or whatever. We need to verify. It's like, dude, I've been a member for 20 years. You need to verify that I'm still active. And they're like, yes. So I sent them all that information, and time goes by. It was like a couple of weeks. I emailed, oh, we're working on it, end of July. Oh, we're working on it. Get into August. And I'm like, the deadline to enter was August 31st. I didn't hear anything back from them. And then like 2 days before the deadline to submit your releases comes up, I called the chapter president of what we call the Pacific Northwest chapter. They're in Seattle, Washington, and say, dude, I need your help. I says, it's been 2 months since I submitted all my paperwork, and these guys they're not even answering my phone calls or emails anymore. So he makes a call, and an hour later he calls me back and says, it's taken care of. You'll get an email in a couple minutes. And I'm like, I wish I had called you earlier, but I mean, we were that close to, and I was scrambling trying to find somebody.
Had you decided what to submit? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, we had our release together. It's 7 songs. So I was actually looking around to find somebody else that hadn't submitted who could add me as well. So that's really what I did over the years, being on the board of the Hawaii Academy and having so many friends in the industry. A lot of them aren't Academy members, but they want to enter their releases. So as a member, I can release for other people. So that's what I did. And it just so happened last year, I did that for the friend of a friend. He was panicking because his manager forgot to include him on his submissions. So 2 days before I get the call, can you help John out? And I'm like, sure. So I get the information and, just rack that up too, maybe he'll be able to do me a favor someday.
Well, that's
but yeah, our intent was, all along we were going to enter, and I really wasn't, very optimistic about our odds. There's some amazing music in regional roots, some of it from Hawaii, and some by people that I know and really respect. But we were encouraged to say, you've got a really unique thing going here. The modern country. Hawaiian music has always had influence of country music. Our current, popular Hawaiian music style is very much based on, the music of the what they call the vaqueros, the Spanish cowboys or Mexican cowboys that came to Hawaii in the 1800s. But there's not anybody else that's doing, Hawaiian language music with a modern kind of country sound and feel. So we figured, maybe that's our hook. That's what people will latch on to and hopefully like.
Very interesting. Very interesting. And I believe it's called A-A-I. Is that right?
Yeah, A-A-I.
And it's in regional roots. Is that correct?
It's in region. That's correct. Yeah.
Okay. Fantastic. And so how long did that production take? Was that just this year, or was it?
It was actually recorded. We started in November of last year and finished it by December. But that's within the Academy's, awards cycle. Our Academy in Hawaii uses a calendar year, so it's January 1st to December 31st. So everybody gets confused about the dates. And some releases that came out last year in Hawaii are not eligible for the Grammys, but they will be eligible for our awards. We had talked at one point about trying to synchronize our schedules, and it just didn't work.
No, okay. And have you had an opportunity in the last 20 years to go over to LA and to attend the awards ever? No, not really.
No, it's, life is really crazy with,
Mm.
most of the time that I can spare to do music things has been um uh focused on my composition and working with this group. The other thing I did, if you want to go down this road, is part of my academic is I have a
Yeah.
book coming out
Okay.
next year sometime. So my training is not actually in the musical part of music, it's ethnomusicology. So we study and write about musical culture.
Ooh.
And what happened here in Hawaii, well, it's been going on for decades, but there was serious confrontations about 5 years ago. We have a mountain on Hawaii Island called Mauna Kea, and it's about 15,000 foot. I think it's huge. It's by far the largest in the Pacific. By mass, it's the biggest mountain in the world if you count down to the seafloor.
Oh,
And
okay, right. I see.
yeah,
Okay.
and astronomers have been building telescopes on that mountain for decades, and often against, Native Hawaiians don't want it done. So they had plans to build a massive facility. It's like the building that holds the telescope would cover 10 acres, and
Oh,
it would dig
because
into the mountain 30, almost 40 feet.
and why is that such a good site to have a telescope? Just a view of the from
Well, because of
astronomy perspective?
its elevation,
Yeah, okay,
it's
okay.
very dry, so there's no water in the air to so there's actually laws here where you can't have a street light or any kind of light aimed up at the sky because it's going to interfere with the astronomers. But
Oh.
anyway, so what happened is, this company was about to start heading up the mountain to build the telescope, and a group of Native Hawaiian protesters and their supporters blockaded the road.
Yeah.
So that went on for months, and it drew international attention. Um, The Rock, Dwayne Johnson came.
Right.
Jason Momoa, who's on,
Yeah,
he's a
yeah,
native Hawaiian. He was on the
yeah,
mountain. I mean, there were thousands of people,
yeah, yeah.
thousands of them, against the police force with military type of weapons trying to clear the road.
Mm.
Did you hear what happened at Ihumatao in New Zealand? The
No,
protests over there about the
no.
land. Same
When was
kind of
that?
situation. That was 2019.
Oh, okay. Is that around
So
Waitangi Day
anyway,
or oh, I'm not sure. Yeah.
no, it actually lasted a full year, this
Okay.
confrontation
Okay. Right. Right. Right.
between the defenders, and same with us. So this went on for until it got really cold, and then COVID hit. So there's been no progress. But anyway, music played a huge role in that. They
Mm.
had a tent set up, and the main people defending the front line were what we call kupuna. They were the elderly, so folks in
Right.
their
Wow.
60s, 70s,
They were the
80s.
front line.
They were the front line, sitting in lawn chairs, refusing to budge. So people, they set up a tent for them, and there was an entertainment tent, and anybody who had an instrument or a talent could go up and perform for the folks up there. They had a kitchen set up, communications people. Like I say, it was incredibly well organized. But all of a sudden, people started writing new music about the mountain and about the struggle and their efforts to defend the island or the Mauna against this, pretty disrespectful development. The Mauna is considered sacred. It's considered an ancestor of the Hawaiian people. And every attempt they made through legitimate channels to challenge this, it just got pushed off to the side. No, this is too important. We need this telescope on the mountain. So again, and major artists from Hawaii, they would go over just with their guitars and ukulele and perform. I have a list of about 80 songs that were composed and recorded during
At
this
that time.
time. At that time, so music played a huge role in it. So I interviewed about.
Did you end up creating anything new at that time?
Oh yeah, I wrote several. One of them
Right.
is on our release.
Okay.
It's for the. It was written in praise of the folks who, I mean, seriously, these people were putting their lives on the line. They're at an elevation of 6,000 or 7,000 feet. In the night, it would get down into the 30s and 40 degrees. And again, we're talking about older folks who were risking their lives, they were risking their jobs and their health because they felt so strongly about defending the Mauna and preventing this construction. So anyway, I interviewed among the defenders and composers and musicians about 40 people, and that's what's going to be in the book. So
the interviews and okay, and along with your analysis or just
my analysis
your analysis.
So I just use, and I applied it, ethnomusicologists, we use theories from the social sciences like anthropology, and that's how we talk about musical culture. So I was able to find themes within all these interviews that I was able to approach it from that. And my plan eventually is, the book should be out by next summer. It's been in process for almost 3 years now. And I plan to do a compilation CD, gather some of the newer music that's been written and put out a CD of music of, newer things. People forget that this struggle isn't over. There's still the threat that the state is going to try to do this again. So we just try to keep it on people's radar and remind them, they could make another attempt at any point, and we can't be caught flat-footed about it.
Wow. Yes, there's always the next conflict is always around the corner, but it is so heartwarming in a sense and inspiring that even within an arena of conflict, there's always room for creativity, innovation, and music. And I think that's nice.
Well, even the situation with Lahaina that we talked about before coming into this, the reason the town burned down is, for over a century, commercial entities have been diverting water away from the town. And originally it was to feed sugarcane fields, and now it's to water golf courses. But Lahaina town, one of its nicknames was the Venice of the Pacific.
Oh, really?
It had freshwater streams running from the mountain through the town. Wow. There was a big pond where the ruling king of Hawaii of the 1800s actually lived on an island in this gigantic pond. But over time, these commercial interests started stealing the water away and turned that beautiful Venice of the Pacific into a desert. That's what precluded. But music is coming in here too. Again, we find, this a focus on creating new music to celebrate the town and support efforts. So now there's a much more active attempts being made to get the water returned. The water is still coming off of the mountain and it's still getting siphoned off, and they're saying we need that water running through this town again so that we don't ever go through this again. So my program, I'm actually leading a group of students this semester, and that is our focus, is to write new music for Lahaina and West Maui, and
perform it live or record it.
We're going to record an album of it and then go out and perform it live.
Fantastic. Well, good luck with it. So many wonderful projects come out of such adversity and such trauma, even. Again, warming to see that. I think that, there's a song for every season, isn't it? I mean, there's every situation in life actually warrants itself towards music. I mean, my example, the song that I wrote this year and the one you kindly, connected. I mean, it's different. I mean, we weren't in a very, it was nothing compared to the extreme adversities that you've talked about. But it was me leaving home. It was a son leaving home. And, only son, close to my mother, but we don't talk about these things, even though we're close. And then it took my dad to call and say, hey, I think she's struggling a bit. And I say, what can I do? I'll write a song. And then first it was me and her, and then I realized it is universal, right? It's just, it happens in most houses that mothers come to the emptiness moment. It's not talked about much, but, and such themes are truly universal. Like, there's hardships in your part of the world, natural disasters, destroying property, lives, and then there's the government trying to up to its naughty tricks.
Yeah.
And it's happening in various parts of the world as we speak.
Right.
And songs about these actually end up being universal because it's about the same theme. It's about the same feeling.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's as sacred as it is there and here.
Right. And that's not to say that's all we write music about. We also write, beautiful love songs, and songs for places is very important. The sense of place and rootedness of the native people. And for the record, I'm not Native Hawaiian. I was actually born in Pennsylvania on the U.S. mainland. Our family moved to Hawaii when I was 10. And I was what we call a hanai, or adopted by a family, an informal adoption. I still live with my parents, but
so what's the word for family
Native
again?
Hawaiian.
What's the word for family?
Family is ohana.
Ohana, because I thought you said something like so. In I think in Maori it's whana. I think
whana, yeah.
Whana, yeah.
So, but the relationship, they call it a hanai, and I think in Maori it's whanai, where you kind of take responsibility and help raise a child. And my hanai family was Hawaiian and Filipino, so they were the ones that inspired me to learn the language and 100%. Learn about the culture and get involved, particularly in education. It's one of our state's weak links. The Native Hawaiian population is doing difficult, as I know they're doing in Aotearoa and also in Australia. So, just music and the language happened to be my path to find a way to contribute to the community.
It's a great path. And I mean, I'm reflecting on your career going, okay, PhD, that's not easy. Academic teaching, that's not easy. Standing up for social causes and justice, that's not easy. And then in the midst of all this, you churn out 150 compositions. How? How do you find the time?
And write a book.
And write a book.
I think everybody needs a creative outlet of some kind. So, I can, be up in the middle of the night when my wife is asleep, or, and jot some ideas down and get it going. Usually these days it's my partner, Kenneth, who'll text me, he's doing a wedding for somebody, or he needs a song for a child's first birthday,
like that.
Okay, brother, you need to keep that down. And sometimes it's like, okay, when do you need this by? And he's like, tomorrow. So I'm like, okay, this is going to be another all-nighter. Hey, brother, you need to keep that down, okay? My grandson just showed up.
Oh, nice.
Brother.
Yes.
Say hi.
Hi.
Hello there.
I eat you home.
Is
He's
that
at
in
home.
Hawaii? Huh?
No. I'll explain. So anyway, forget where we were now. Anyway, so Kenneth often feeds me these ideas and just, it tells me a little bit about the
deadline
person.
to you and say,
well, he gives me the material. So if it's like this child, well, the mother's from here, the father's from here, they're really into this, the name of the child. And, usually you can find metaphoric expressions that can relate to that child. So an example is the one I just did with him. There's an organization here called the Native Hawaiian Chamber of Commerce, and they're honoring Kenneth and several other people for their, lifetime achievement and contributions to society.
Wow.
And he calls me up one night and says, "Brett, I need a song." And he's like, "Don't tell me you need it tomorrow." And he says, No, 2 weeks. So, and it's, we use the metaphor in Hawaiian, a hulu kupuna. Hulu is a feather, and a lei made out of feathers is one of the most prized, gifts you can give anyone. So I came up with thematically the idea of using that as a metaphor, and describing the making of the lei and the manner in which it's created and then given to the person, and then you sing their praises. Something that wasn't specific to him, but that this organization could use in the future, just to honor whoever it is they chose to honor that year. They could use this song and it would be equally applicable to them as it is this year.
That is so cool. That is so cool.
Yeah, so I finished the gist of the Mele's Hawaiian song that night. And then over the course of a couple days, he would send me a demo and I'd tweak things a bit. And, within about 4 days, it was done.
Not 2 weeks.
Well, it's like I could have stretched it out, but it actually came out kind of nice.
Well, yeah, sometimes it just comes so naturally.
Yeah,
I love that. I love that.
But what I find is, and maybe this will be applicable to your audience, is for me personally, I find, I hate working up to a deadline, being pushed to do it. But I also recognize that that's often when I do my best work.
Yeah.
Both in academia, with my writing deadline for the book, with our deadline for our release, our academy's deadline to get releases out and be eligible is December 31st of the year. I was uploading to, what company is it? DistroKid on December 30th, about 10 p.m.
Nice.
And praying that it would be online the next day. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been eligible for our award.
I think you were lucky. I think you're very lucky because DistroKid, I distribute through them as well.
Yeah.
I think. And it's usually not the next day, but good on you. Good on you. Gosh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
I mean, with this,
sorry, go ahead.
No. Sorry, you go.
No, I was going to say, I did one of them as a single, and it actually showed up like an hour and a half after I posted it.
Oh.
So it's like, all right, we're good. And then, the whole album went up and I waited an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. And I'm like, oh crap, I hope it. So it was posted about 3 hours, I think, before the deadline.
Nice. Yes, deadlines do work. My wife, she did her Ph.D. It's a very intense topic, but it was it took 6 years for her part-time, and it was deadlines. She credits deadlines with her finishing it. Like that's the reason she finished the PhD and got it through and stuff like that. And after 6 years of doing it, and me also being very patient husband, she turns around and says, "Don't do a PhD, by the way." Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, but look, I mean, there's so much to talk about, but from a podcast perspective, I guess that leaves us time for one last question, the question. And after having learned so much about your wonderful career, there's a lot of things I've picked up. The way you manage time, the way you prioritize issues, the way you don't hesitate in taking on new projects and working with deadlines and stuff. Very inspiring. But tell me, what according to you, Keola, is the one must-have or one non-negotiable in order for anyone to become the next big thing in any field?
Well, when you first suggested this as the last topic, I thought about a lot, and I think one of there's two approaches to this. One is having an unfailing belief in yourself and what you're capable of doing.
Nice.
Which honestly I don't have. So I operate from the exact opposite, where, give you an example. So when I did my master's in Hawaiian language, it's almost 20 years now. I walked into the class and I knew all of my classmates. We had taken other classes together, and I looked at them and said, I'm the weak link. I need to outwork these people. I need to study harder and practice harder and whatever. And in the end, I completed my M.A. in 2.5 years. Prior to that, nobody had taken less than 5. Because I just put my head to the grindstone and said, I'm going to finish this, but that was my insecurity about my abilities that drove me to it. And even with this group, I look at myself as being the weak link. I mean, Jeff, Kenneth, Tarvin are all incredible musicians.
Which makes you work harder? Is that the kind
It makes me work harder. Yeah. I take that approach, and everybody that I tell that to laughs. He says, you really think that about yourself? And even with the Grammys, it's like, I'm just having a blast. I'm enjoying what I'm doing. I don't have unrealistic expectations. I work as hard as I can. And if something like the Nahoku Hanohano Award comes, or even a nomination for the Grammy, that's great. But I'm having a great time still. It's a wonderful reward. but I don't count on it happening.
Mm-hmm. No, that's a wonderful approach to have. I mean, it is the approach to have, to be honest.
Work to make it happen, do the best you can with everything. And, but some, things that you can control, absolutely, it's, you make it happen. But, for awards, for those kind of things, it's not really as much in your hands. You can.
Yeah. So whatever you can control it with modesty. That is your approach. With a sense of, I'm flawed, but I'll do my best. I'm going to work so hard to make the most of what I have. That's a wonderful attitude, actually. I really enjoyed that. Okay, wonderful. So that's the key takeaway here. That's the secret sauce. Dr. Keola Donaghy
that works for people who don't have the confidence in themselves, I think, is,
interestingly, I don't know if are you into tennis? Do you like tennis?
I was when I was in high school. I haven't played in many years. There's a player called
Rafael Nadal, as you might have heard of him. And he operates like that. He operates from a place of extreme doubt. And he regards every opponent as a threat. As even if it's first round, even if he's not heard of them, he's like, okay, I can lose to this guy. So I need to,
right.
So he famously comes from a place of doubt and fear, even. So it's interesting. So, and he's a role model. I don't subscribe to that. Him doing that, but because he's just so good. I'm like, what do you have to fear?
Well, I think one of the things that I try to be careful when taking that approach is I never feel like I have anything to prove to anybody else. It's really about proving it to myself that that I'm capable of doing it. So I'm never flying my own flag or this is how I
blowing your own trumpet, as a musician would say.
There's a Hawaiian term for it, but it would take me 5 minutes to explain the metaphor, so I'll spare you.
Oh my God, I learned so much about Hawaii and your lovely place, because everything that's been fed to me so far, I don't think I've even spoken to anyone from there. So it's all touristy, stuff. It's the stuff you see on TV and things like that. So it's great to get a not firsthand, but a virtual firsthand.
Well, can I add one little thing which you're saying? I think that's one of the problems that we have here, and particularly with what happened in Lahaina and our recovery, is people tend to think of it that way. And even Lahaina town, it's like, this is a place where people have lived for centuries. And when people look at it, it's like, oh, it's a tourist place. It kind of erases, the population of people that live and work here, and many of whom are struggling. So I think we're trying really hard to flip that around and make people aware, even the visitors, they come and say, hey, there are people here that they need your respect. Our places need your respect. This isn't a playground. You shouldn't be doing silly things that are going to endanger your lives and, by
or disrespect the sanctity of the place. Yep.
Exactly. So
100%.
Sorry, I just want to throw that in, but there's still that important perception. It's like Las Vegas or any other, Paris, whatever. It's really about the people that live there.
100%. No different. Very true. Well, thank you for explaining that to me and to listeners. It certainly awakened and opened a few windows in my head, which is always wonderful. This whole Grammy process has been me learning about different styles of music, learning different things from different people. So thank you, Dr. Keola Donaghy, for sharing your time.
Thank you for having me.
And it's so wonderful having you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me, and have a wonderful, afternoon there?
Afternoon.
Afternoon. Wonderful, my friend. I'll see you online.
See you, Keola. See you.
Aloha.
Aloha.